Hello everybody, my name is Manika, and we're back with Transformers, we're back with some Combiners, we're back with some Combaticons. Obviously, we've looked at two of the Combaticons on the channel already, from Age of the Primes at least. And today we need to move on to the third, which was batch released with the second, but in a bit of a strange way. A bit different from what you would probably expect. Yeah, that means today we are taking a look at the Transformers Age of the Primes Voyager class, Combaticon Brawl. Yeah, something that we have to address right off the top. This is my first experience with a Voyager class combiner limb. It's not the first. If I think in previous videos I said this was like the second or the third combiner, that's not really true. So, for modern generations Transformers combiners, from this sort of modern Transformers style, there have been 5 that have been able to be purchased. The first one came with Legacy Year 1, and also a little bit into Year 2. That was Menasor. It very much, from what I heard, feels a bit like a proof of concept. It has its issues, but generally conceptually worked out in creating the sort of combiner frame. And then they didn't really touch the concept for the rest of Legacy. I imagine it was just seeing if they could do it, and if not, they needed to change it a lot. And if they did, then they would keep going. Because by the time we hit late 2024 and early 2025, it became like all combiners all the time. Immediately, Age of the Primes launched with getting you like half of the aerial bots. Just immediately, right off the bat, you could order them and get them in your hands eventually. You could pre-order them at the same time. However, within Age of the Prime's teaser material, we also saw the Combaticons. However, they would be a little bit later into the process because the main commander class figure for that year was the aerial bot Torso. And then alongside that, there were also the teases that were happening at the same time for the Studio Series version of the 86 Constructicons, who end up becoming Devastator. And those were released like that. They were just back to back to back to back to back. You're getting the Constructicons. And those were the first to kind of shake up the formula that Menasor set up. There's less of a... I mean, it kind of has to happen. The Constructicons are not Scramble City combiners, so they just kind of had to do a little bit of a different thing, and that came in the form of Voyager-class legs. The leg guys, in order to be a little bit bulkier, a little bit bigger, a little bit kind of, but not really... they were put at a Voyager price point. And in that instance, from what I can tell, it wasn't really worth it on an individual level. And then there's also Lio Kaiser. I don't really know how to classify that one. It's a HasLab, so it's a little bit hard to be like, oh yeah, fit Lio Kaiser into this pricing structure, because it kind of theoretically takes it as if all the limbs, while being deluxe size, or Voyager price, which I guess makes sense since they have little guys alongside them. But I don't really know how to say what it goes for, but it doesn't really matter. Either way, it seems like the last of these to be completed will end up being the Combaticon, since Lio Kaiser's supposed to come around summertime 2026, while it doesn't seem like the Combaticons will be finished until fall 2026. So with all that history out of the way, I guess that leaves us with Voyager class Brawl. You can tell he's a little bit small in that box. Now, they've been messing around with size classes and prices for those size classes ever since War for Cybertron started. You've had like the Shockwave is the prime example from War for Cybertron Siege. He's a leader class, but he's a Voyager-sized guy with a bunch of armor. They've been doing this to try to either give them more armor or to give them more engineering, and I get it. This guy does need a little bit more engineering. With the other limb bots that we've gotten so far, you essentially just take the vehicle and slap it onto a pre-existing limb. Even like with the arms and the legs especially, since you just hid them away behind the pre-existing combiner limb, it was easy enough to essentially make a normal deluxe size transformer and call it a day. This, though, essentially needs to be a triple changer, because he needs to be able to shift his entire vibe to become a majority of the leg, since he's up front and center. which is probably going to be a little bit more satisfying. I'm not going to go over the leg transformation here today, so it's going to be one of those things where you don't necessarily see the full value unless you buy the whole set, which with the commander class options for this style of toy, I've been critical about. I don't think you should buy Silverbolt on its own. It works once you buy the rest of the aerial bots, but that's a whole other $100 commitment. And this also requires essentially a $100 commitment, and it's more expensive. So we shall see. Anyways, box size is average Voyager size. Here's a deluxe size so that you can get a difference in scale with the previously looked at Blastoff. Go look at that on the channel already. It came out last week. But yes, bigger box. Not really that much differently sized of a character. Here he is with Blastoff again. He's a little taller, seemingly, though this isn't a pose. We'll look more thoroughly, I think, in a second. But yes, we have the More Than Meets the Eye, 3 of 5 of Bruticus, 23 steps from vehicle to tank mode. This video is for ages 13 and up, so get the fuck out of here if you're a child. This is for adult collectors and parents. Window, we get another nice look, as I've been mentioning all over the place, of Brawl. He does look very good. I do like how he looks. We have this wonderful artwork of Brawl in robot and vehicle mode. It looks so good. And we have the red Transformers logo, the gold Age of the Primes banner, Combaticon Brawl. He's a Decepticon. He's from Hasbro. At the top, you get simply his name and the Takaratomi logo. The bottom gives you some legalese. This side gives you the Primes mural, which seems to locate him with Megatronus, which a lot of the Decepticons have been merged with, which seems a little annoying because it doesn't really leave a lot of variety for them, but whatever. This side, where usually the character art would be enlarged, since he's a combiner, gives you some artwork of Bruticus, Part 3 of 5, Transformers Age of the Primes Brawl. And on the back, you have Combaticon Brawl, CGI renders of him in robot and vehicle mode, 3 out of 5 collect, combine, bleh, 23 steps, More Than Meets the Eye logo. That's the box. Without further ado, let's get him unboxed. There we go. It's gonna be a longer video on account of the rant, probably. I apologize. Let's, though, slip him out of the box to see everything that he comes with. So here he is in that tray. But alongside all that, he comes with this slip. This is your legalese slip. And he also comes with his transformation booklet, which actually feels fairly thick. Again, 20 some odd transformation steps is more than a lot of the other combiner limbs that we've gotten so far. Next up, he's got 3 weapons. None of them are in a baggie. They're all just kind of attached to the side. Let's take a look at them individually. First off, the real actual only accessory, his gun. It's got a sort of submachine gun sort of look, especially with this like venting here. It has a sort of more militant feel, which for the Combaticons makes sense. They're the soldiery types. So I do think it fits. It has a little 5mm peg right there for it to plug in, as well as a port, I imagine, for vehicle mode. But yeah, I do like the way that the ribs pair with the hollow sections. I think it works quite well, and yeah. Next up are going to be a pair of seemingly about the same accessories, though they're a little bit weird to be counted as accessories. I guess it makes sense. It allowed them to have a little bit of extra engineering, though these are mainly for vehicle mode-ish, and also for robot mode, to be fair. And they are detachable. You might not want them attached to a normal tank. We have the back cannons. They are quite large. Here it is next to, dropped it. Here it is next to one of the normal guns. But yeah, they're fucking massive. They don't seem to be, blast effect compatible, unfortunately, which is whatever. But I do really like the shaping, the slightly wider nozzle going into almost like a gun shape, down to this little differently colored handle, sort of. And they also have a point of articulation, which we'll get to because I'll probably attach them. But yeah, these are really cool. I like them. It's nice that they had the budget to include them so that he can really seem bulked out and weaponized. Because he's Brawl. He's a tank. I would imagine he's one of the more combat ready of the Combaticons. I imagine they're all combat ready, but he's ready to fight. But yeah, that's all of his accessories. Not really a ton of extra, but we'll see if the figure itself feels worth the price. Hopefully that didn't damage anything. And here we have Brawl, and gotta split his legs apart. He does feel a little denser. I don't have a weight or a scale on me, but he feels heavier than Blastoff does. I don't know if Blastoff is particularly light. He does seem fairly large for them, so like maybe his weight is distributed differently. But yeah, this guy feels heavier, especially from the legs. There's a lot going on in these legs. Here he is, all cordoned off. And those are some nice tight joints. I think I'm supposed to swivel this around like that. And then we attach these to the sides. So I think, yeah. Oh, they're shoulder mount. Oh, there we are. That's the Brawl look. He does have a bit of a tail, I guess, so that can be pointed outward. But yes, here we have Brawl now fully kitted out. Let's scroll down a little bit so that you can get a more full look of him. But yes, he looks great, honestly. He's finally in more of a dull green. I like the previous one from Combiner Wars was kind of poopy colored, from what I remember, and what I've seen online. I don't actually own it. Yeah, this is a fairly pleasing color. Obviously, it's a little disgusting. That olive green color looks a little weird, but yeah, I think it works for his militant vibe. Let's give a full 360. Some slightly weirdly hollowed out legs. Or I guess they just have spurs that go far back, but I imagine that's for transformation. Let's get a closer look at the stuff that we couldn't see before. Obviously, the cannons are there, but I'm not really going to go over them. There is some hollowness below on them, so keep that in mind. But first off, this head, I quite enjoy how it looks. Here is Brawl's head, and I do like how it looks. It's very nicely painted. The orange is very vibrant. The red faceplate also works very well. It's a lot more of a dull sort of maroon shade, and it really does contrast off the glowing orange visor. And the head shaping is also really good. It's got some nice greebled details in there, some nice panels. It just looks great. It's one of the best combiner heads I've seen. But yeah, torso, a bit thin, a bit weird with these little protrusions, so they don't look the worst, and I can see kind of why they're there. But I do like the way that the torso works. It's got this hinge, which is a little discolored from the rest of it, but it does fit in otherwise very well sculpt-wise. And I do like how it looks. I forgot about the stressing. As a side note, you should note that this part, ooh, mine already has a stress mark. Yucky, yucky, yuck. Do I have a... That's a joint that I don't have to worry about right now because it's for the combiner, but mine does already have a stress mark because that's the ankle tilt. I don't like that it already has a stress mark. Anyways, torso has some nice delineation between the dark gray and the green. I do think it looks very nice. The arms look great, though. The little tank tread bit at the top with its nice bulk, and then this lower bit where it's two split parts, but it still has the Decepticon logo on this side, perfectly aligned. Some real fine-tuned detail is what that, I imagine, would take, and I'm really glad that it is. Nonetheless, it just looks great. I like how it looks. This side still has that silver, but doesn't have the alignment, which is fine, but it still looks good nonetheless. And also some nice bulky hands. I really like the little plate on the back, moving into that. Thighs are a little discolored again, it's fine. Moving into the darker gray thighs, fairly standard Transformers detailing. Bit of a short torso to be fair, going to very long legs, but I do love these lower legs. Again, that nice tanky bulkiness looks fucking great on him. It just looks so cool. And the little tank tread still being visible. Obviously, there's a little bit of bulk going into the back that isn't fully delivered upon, but it's workable. And his big fucking clompers, whew, those look nice. So yeah, on the whole, he does look really good. But how does he pose? Obviously, he's a little small for his size class, so hopefully his posability can make up for it. Here is the size comparison again with, let's get Blast Off into a more standard pose. So yeah, he's a little bigger. He's like half a head taller than Blast Off is. Like half a head to a head taller, so that's nice. But now I need to sort out his articulation. So again, these are on hinges. We mentioned before, they are on a limited axis going down that far and up that far. The back is also on a swivel. It doesn't seem to peg in any particular way, but it is on a swivel. We'll get to this, but this is also on a hinge. Head is on a ball joint. Somewhat limited, but you can get a little bit of tilt, a little bit of up, not really any down, and a full swivel. Shoulders, thanks to transformation seemingly, have a butterfly. That's a pretty good butterfly. Not amazing, and it's mainly for throwing punches for this guy, and it can make a faux blaster holding look. But yeah, this is mainly going to be throwing for punches, but I do think that's good. Hinge outward on that upper joint goes up to 90 degrees, and there is a full 360 swivel, thankfully not trigger happy style. There's a bicep swivel, a little low, but that's workable. A single jointed elbow allows for 90 degrees of bend. No hand articulation. I've seen this because of transformation, but still, for the price, it's a little unfortunate. No real ab crunch. There's a waist swivel, though, and it looks very nice. I think it can go full 360. Yeah, there's just enough clearance with the tank head or whatever. Universal hips, they're able to kick forward that far, back that far, a little bit limited by the tank, though. I imagine you might be able to get that out of the way and get a little bit more range, though it's not super worth it. Out that far, so full articulation there. thigh rotation, a single jointed knee that goes 90 degrees, though it does have 2 locking points, a full ankle pivot, no real ankle joint or toe jointage, but full ankle pivot. So yeah, Brawl seems fully kitted out outside of the wrist swivel. Like, wrist swivels aren't hyper important. I think he does cover everything else that he needs to, but it is a little bit annoying that he can't go all out. But I do like him. Again, he feels dense, but I don't quite see the value like I did necessarily immediately with Amalgamous Prime, because Amalgamous Prime is short. He is the same height as the Deluxe, but he's got a hunched back, which gives him the same sort of mass spectrum as your average Voyager. This one is just a lot denser, and it doesn't seem as immediately apparent its value, but I'll have to see, because I do still need to transform it, and from what I can tell, a lot of the budget that went into this is for the sake of the engineering, because it has to be a tank and also a leg. So let's do the transformation into the tank. I'm not going to do the leg transformation until I get the torso part on slot. But yeah, let's do a tank. And that's the transformation complete. And with that out of the way, the question becomes, was that transformation worth it to make this set feel worth it? And the answer is almost kinda. I still don't necessarily think it's worth, especially inflated Voyager price. But if this was a base Voyager price, I could see it. This has some really clever transformation steps. The way that it just satisfyingly unfolds and then furls back in on itself, the way that these big treads lock in here, the way that the arms become these side panels that lock in here, very hefty, very satisfying. And while the tank itself looks a little gappy depending on the angle, it just works. Obviously, it's not super painted. A lot of the paint was on the arms for the robot mode, as well as on the head. But it works. It looks nice. I like the green and I like the gray, and I think they go well together overall. And if we take a look closer, you can see some wonderful greebling all over this damn thing. Let's look at the size. Just some wonderful tank-like detail. Obviously, we have a 5mm port there, but oh my goodness, it looks amazing. And then we look at the top. Let's go through all that, and you can just see all these little greebles, like here and here, and then here in the back especially. Just some nice tanky detail, and then on top of the little tank, the little hatch. And obviously, you don't have to have it be this souped up. You can have it just be a normal tank, and it looks great as a normal tank, even better than SS-86 Megatron from what I've seen. But then you can take the weapons from before and port them all over into the turret. The little blaster goes here, and then you put the tank, as you just saw, these little larger cannons into tank configuration, which can also be good for if you want this singular turret to be pointed upward in attack position. It looks great, and it's great. Obviously, let's go into, I guess, articulation, because there's a little bit. It does roll, not super well, but it does have wheels, which is appreciated. And then articulation. The turret can swivel a full 360. It's a little awkward, but it does have a hinge that helps get out of the way for it to do its full rotation. These retain the same articulation, and then the turret itself has downward that far and upward that far. So serviceable tank articulation, and honestly, I'm pretty happy that I own this. Obviously, I don't think I would necessarily go in on it at the base price if I wasn't going all in on the Combaticons, but I am glad that I am. I don't necessarily think it's as worth it as, say, like, if you want a value piece, get Blastoff. Blastoff is the best of the limbs, and it's just a very good figure that's that if you can get it at base deluxe price, try your best to avoid the heightened deluxe price of the 2026 era. Even still, this is a good value deluxe. And I still quite think this is Voyager price, especially super Voyager price that we're living in now, but it's very good. I would recommend getting a Brawl if you can find it for a decent price. But yeah, that's the video. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, leave a like on the video. Leave your thoughts in the comments section on anything that may pertain to this video. Check out the channel for previous looks at different action figures and especially the Transformers. As I just said, I've got a video on Brawl. I've got a video on Vortex. In the future, I will have videos on the rest of the Combaticons, so be sure you're subscribed to the channel so that you can be notified when that video comes out. But yeah, with that out of the way, I hope to see you around in the next video. And until then, bye-bye!